How to navigate trauma and triggers in relationships. This is a really juicy topic. I'm going to be super vulnerable, super raw, and practical in this podcast. If you don't know who I am, my name is Lewis Huckstep. I'm a coach and I help people do the inner work, master themselves by finding their purpose, their true authentic self, and create a life that they love. So we're going to be diving into relationships today. So if you want to have deep, meaningful, intimate relationships, this is something that you are going to run into. This is something you cannot avoid, and you have to learn this lesson if you want to have deep, true intimacy in relationships. So let's kick this off. So this is my most spoken about lesson is these three pieces when it comes to trauma and triggers. So let's fly through it because I talk about it in depth in other podcasts. First point, trauma or limiting beliefs. So a trauma is a moment in time when something was too much or not enough. It is a moment in time. If you break it down to its core foundational block, that's what trauma is. It's a moment in time when something was too much or not enough. And it will be something specific. You need to break it down to the character trait or the behavior of what was too much or not enough. It might be abandonment, rejection, criticism, neglection, anger, lying, dismissed, suppression, control, manipulation. You got to find the word to describe what was too much or not enough. That's the trauma. From that second piece, coping mechanisms. You can call it coping strategies, traumatic reactions, trauma responses, shadows, call it what you want. It's what you do to overcome, protect, and hide the trauma. Okay? Now, this could be people pleasing, overworking, disassociating, yelling, fighting, screaming, getting angry, getting frustrated, whatever it may be, judging others, tearing others down. There's tons of coping mechanisms that people can develop. Third piece is a trigger. A trigger reminds you of the trauma. You perceive something that reminds you of the original trauma and it activates your coping mechanism. Quick run through. Trauma, let's use rejection. A moment in time, something was too much or not enough. A coping mechanism, say you disassociate, you shut off, and you hide, you avoid. And then a trigger, something happens that reminds you of rejection, where you get rejected or you see someone else get rejected, it will activate your coping mechanism. So that's a quick run through of it. So now, why do I talk about relationships? Why are we talking about this here? Nothing triggers you. It reveals what's inside of you. So when you get triggered, when a trigger happens, it's revealing or reminding you of a trauma. So it's not triggering you, it's revealing the trauma within you. Now, I did mention limiting beliefs as well, because limiting beliefs are the other things that trigger you. When you get triggered, it is a limiting belief being challenged or a trauma being revealed. That's it. Now, disclaimer, outside of fight or flight. And I talk about this in my other content as well. Peter Crone has this great quote. If it's not life-threatening, it's just ego-threatening. If you're actually in danger where you're going to die, you're naturally going to get triggered into a fight or flight response. So outside of real danger, where you're actually need your fight or flight response to kick in, outside of that, when you get triggered, it is a limiting belief or a trauma, okay? Nothing triggers you, it reveals what's inside of you. So the next point, which is where we're getting to the relationship part, is you will attract people and circumstances to reveal where you have not healed. Whatever you haven't healed through, you attract into your life. Why is that? Because you're trying to not look for it. I use this example all the time. Say a tiger walks into my room right now and attacks me. And that's a trauma moment for me. It's a trauma experience for me. And say I haven't mentally healed through that and processed that and healed that traumatic moment. I then live my life trying to not trying to not find a tiger, trying to avoid a tiger, trying to protect myself from a tiger. So I'm constantly looking out for it because I'm trying to protect myself from it. But what you look for is what you find. It's like when someone, say you've had a manipulation wound before, and then you're in a relationship and your partner does something that's a little bit not consistent, you're like, he's manipulating me. I see it. What you look for is what you find. You have something called the reticular activating system. It's in your mind. Essentially, you find things that you deem as important. Best example, you buy a car or you want to buy a new car and you see that car everywhere. You want to buy the new shoes or the new clothes, you see those clothes and those shoes everywhere. You find what's important to you, okay? So, whatever you haven't healed through, you're going to be constantly trying to avoid it because past hurt creates future fear. Okay, hope you follow me so far. So there's trauma, coping mechanisms, and triggers. Whatever trauma you haven't healed through, you're constantly trying to protect yourself from it, so you're trying to avoid it. But you will attract these people and circumstances into your world that will trigger you, which is essentially revealing the wounds within you so you get to heal through it. Now let's dive into relationships. How does this all tie together? Your intimate relationships are the ultimate mirror to you. They mirror you more than anything else because they get to know you more than anyone else. If you have a level of depth with your relationship and you have a level of intimacy with your relationship, your partner will see you more than I see you. Like, you guys are watching me right now on a podcast or however you're consuming this. You have not seen the depths to me that my wife sees. Now, I try to be pretty authentic, pretty vulnerable, pretty raw and real in my content. Like, I try to just, like, I've got like 4 dot points in front of me right now. I'm just talking free flowing. I don't edit my stuff. I just put it out there. But again, you don't see me when I haven't slept properly, when we've had financial pressure, when we've triggered each other, which I'm going to get to in a moment. You haven't seen those depths to me. Who gets to see that? My wife does. So the reality is that every intimate relationship that you have, you're going to trigger each other. So if you don't learn to navigate your triggers in a relationship, you then just keep triggering and projecting and bubbling up all this unresolved tension and unhealed shit until it ultimately explodes. I talk about 3 stages of relationships. First stage, honeymoon period. That's what we all love. Love, sex, electricity, amazing. We pedestal our partners and we hide our shit from our partners. We present to them the highlights of who we are, our masks, our personas, and we hide the shit that we shame ourselves for. The second phase of a relationship, or second stage of a relationship, is the triggered stage. This is where you start to see the other parts to your partner, their wounds, their coping mechanisms, their shadows, their shit, and you trigger them and they trigger you, and you start to shine lights on the parts you haven't healed through. This is normal. People think this is a shit thing. This is very fucking normal. Show me a single long-term relationship, let's say over 6, 12, 18 months long, where you're never triggered. You haven't been triggered once. Show me a single fucking relationship where that's happened. I'm yet to find it. It's fucking normal. So if you don't learn what I'm talking about, you just keep projecting, blaming onto each other, and eventually it will explode and end, or you guys will just have like a fucking average ass relationship, which no right no wrong, but I don't want that, and I don't think you want that either. The third stage is the conscious growth stage. This is when you become aware and you take ownership that nothing triggers you, it reveals what's inside of you. So when your partner does trigger you, your partner does mirror back to you something you haven't worked on yet. Yes, you'll have the triggered moment, which I'm about to get to in a moment. So yeah, I'll do it now. So when there's 2 types of tools that I talk about. There's maintenance tools and there's progress tools. Maintenance tools is what you do in the moment to help maintain yourself. So when you are triggered, when you go into your wounds, when you go into a coping mechanism, what do you do in the moment to get through it? Because that is not the time to heal. That's you do everything you can with all the resources you have, all the tools that you have, everything that you've got to get through the storm as cleanly as possible without saying too many things that you don't mean, and you hurt each other even more. You try to maintain yourself as best as you can when you're triggered. Then once the storm has passed and you've regulated yourself, we want to use the progress tools to reflect on, okay, what did my partner do or not do that triggered me? What was the belief? I mentioned limiting beliefs. Or what was the wound? What was the trait? What was the behavior that this person, my wife, my husband, my partner, reflected back to me that I got triggered by and activated by? And once you find, honestly, I've been talking about this heaps lately with my clients, the mastery when it comes to inner work, when it comes to healing, when it comes to raising consciousness, whatever you want to call it, self-growth, the key is the mastery of it, of healing, is being able to find what the wound or limiting belief is. Because honestly, this sounds very simple. It is simple once you work with me. I'll be able to simplify it for you. Once you find the limiting belief or the wound, the trigger, just go do a process on it and heal through it. Sounds fucking simple, and it is once you know what I'm talking about and you've got the tools in your toolkit to heal through it. So I forgot the loop that I opened up, so hopefully it comes back up for me, but I'm going to keep pushing forward. So your partners will mirror you. They will trigger you. You want to do your absolute best in the moment to maintain yourself. What do you do to do that? I want to give you something practical. I love using breath work. I like using a diaphragm reset, and I like reframing the situation. So first thing is breathe. So the best way to drop from a sympathetic, which is your triggered response, into a parasympathetic, which is a rest and digest and connection response. There's a little bit of nuance in there, but for now, that's all you need to know. So the easiest way to do that is to breathe. Because think about when you're triggered and you're stressed and you're tense and you're angry, like you're really uptight, you're in fight or flight. So best way to do that is to breathe. So if you want to do it with me now, you can. What I recommend is breathe in through your nose for 5 seconds. When you get to the top and you want to breathe into your belly, not into your chest, deep into your belly, into your diaphragm. And then you want to hold it for about 5 seconds at the top and then 5 seconds on the way out. And honestly, if you just do that, fantastic. You do that for a minute or two, 5 minutes if you need, as long as you need to reset, you will do it. That's all you need. But I like to take it a little bit further. If you can find where your diaphragm is, it's about 1 inch or 2 below your sternum. If you've got fake nails on, it makes it a little bit harder to do this. All you do is when you breathe in, you breathe into your diaphragm. So your fingers are on your diaphragm. You breathe in, expand your diaphragm. And when you breathe out, you push your fingers into your diaphragm. Because what you can do, you can literally feel how rigid you are or how relaxed you are. And as you continue that breathing, so you breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe it out for 5. And when you breathe out, you push your fingers deep into your diaphragm. And you'll be surprised how much you can push. Obviously, be cautious and obviously use your own intuition of how hard to push and when to stop. But when you do this, you can literally focus on relaxing so easily. I had this beautiful message from a client like 2 days ago. We did this on a live call that I did with my clients. And she said, holy shit, I didn't realize how fast you can get out of anxiety and stress because we did it on the call together. It's like, it works fucking quickly. So that's my favorite maintenance tool is to breathe and regulate nervous system whilst pushing into your diaphragm and consciously focusing on relaxing, surrendering, slowing down your heart rate. That's my favorite way. The second tool I like to add on top of that is reframing. So your words create your reality, right? Whatever life is nor good nor bad. Thinking just makes it so. So you want to be able to catch your thoughts and, okay, instead of saying my partner is trying to attack me right now and she's trying to hurt me or he's trying to hurt me right now, my partner is healing right now. Think of the two differences of what you would feel with those two different meanings. So try your best. And again, it's not always easy when you're triggered, by the way. This is something you practice. Now in my marriage now, I would say 70 to 80% of the time, we handle it really well. We regulate, we reframe, we hold space for each other, and we get through it pretty well. Still 20, 30% of the time, we get fucking triggered, we go into our wounds. I'm still a human, and I've been doing healing for 10 years. But when I first started, it was like 100% of the time, we were triggered, and we'd just like fight with each other, okay? So the more you do this work, the more you heal, the stronger the muscle becomes of you knowing this stuff, the better you're going to get at that, okay? That was maintenance tools. So when you are triggered in a relationship, first thing that I would recommend, take a breath. Slow down your breathing, relax, push into your diaphragm, and reframe the conversation. Right now, you're healing with your partner. I like to look at this because this is another layer on triggers. So remember I said trauma, coping mechanisms, and triggers. Say you received a trauma, the original trauma happened when you were 5 years old, and now you're 25, 35, 45 years old. When you get triggered, you regress back to who you were when you first received the wound. So a good question to ask is, how old is the person that I'm talking to right now? And you can literally say, I'm speaking to a 7-year-old hurt little girl. And what does a 7-year-old hurt little girl need? Do they need you to fucking fix their problems and to yell at them and to criticize them? Or do they just need fucking love? Do they just need a hug? Do they just need someone to validate them, to say it's okay, to make them feel safe? It's a really bonus tool on the reframing that I like to use. Now, progress tools. Let's touch on that. Progress tools is essentially identifying what triggered you to start with. It will be a limiting belief or it will be a wound. That is it. That is it. I talk about the difference between boundaries and triggers. They are different because I always use this example. I'm in my office right now working. A boundary I have is when my door is closed, do not come in. Unless like shit's going like something super urgent, the dogs have died, something urgent right? So say my wife walks into my room right now in my office while I'm doing this, that's a boundary of mine. If I snap at her and say, get the fuck out, and I get triggered, That's me. That's a trigger of mine. That's for me to integrate and heal through what she did or didn't do to trigger me. However, she still overstepped a boundary. But why couldn't I have said, hey babe, is everything okay? Are the dogs okay? Fantastic. Look, I'm busy right now. Come back later. I'll chat to you soon. Feel the difference with how I responded. One was a triggered response. One was a neutral, healed response. So if you get triggered, it's on you, but there's also boundaries and expectations, which we can talk about in other conversations. So that's pretty much it that I got for you for today. Your relationships will reveal your wounds more than anything else. One of the biggest purposes of a relationship, in the way that I see things, is it's to help you heal. Because you will be initiated into your healing more in a relationship than anywhere else. More than business. Children, I have heard children, I'm not a parent yet, but I have heard children do it a lot too. For any parents that are listening to this, you can probably resonate to that. They trigger you. They push your buttons. They challenge you. They find your edges. But I have heard kids do that a lot. But from my level of knowledge and my belief as of right now, I believe relationships do it more than anywhere else. And there is no way to avoid this. If you try to, you suppress your emotions, you suppress the resentment, you don't heal through what's wanting to be healed because your triggers just want to be healed. And you can ignore it, you can kick the can down the road, you can put your head in the sand, and it just makes it worse and worse and worse and builds up, and you have these huge explosions. So my invitation to you is to learn how to heal. Learn to take ownership. Even from this podcast, just take ownership when you get triggered. Learn to find what's the limiting belief, what's the trigger, what's the wound that's been revealed in me right now, and then go do a process on that. The most common question after I say stuff like this is, how do you heal? How do you do the processes? Find a coach, find a therapist, find a counselor, find someone to work with that you feel safe with, who is an embodiment of the work that they teach and have proven results for others. And go work with them. Learn the tools. And hopefully, and this is a belief I have, hopefully they teach you the tools so you don't need them long term. I believe in teach a man a fish, not give a man a fish. I like to teach my clients the tools and take them and hold their hand at the start, but then empower them with the tools so they don't need me long term. That's my intention with clients that I work with. So go find someone. If you're interested in doing that with me, I would love to serve you. I'm going to wrap this podcast up. I hope this made sense. I hope you got value from this. If you want to learn how to navigate your triggers and traumas in relationships, take ownership. It's your triggers. They are revealing it within you. Learn how to maintain yourself in the moment. Do some breath. Slow down your breathing. Push into your diaphragm. Reframe the situation. Then, once the storm has passed, then reflect on yourself and your partner to find what was triggered within us. What was the trait? What was the behavior? What did your partner do or not do? Say it in one word. Once you find what they did or didn't do, that's a wound of yours. Go do a process on that. Whether it's a limiting belief or a trauma, you'll do different processes. And then continue indefinitely because the healing journey is never finished. There's always more. Obviously, at the start, you'll do a lot of the progress stuff, but then it gets more subtle and more subtle and more subtle, and that's where you got to be really, really precise, and that mastery of finding where it is just becomes a little bit harder, but it's always possible. I hope that helped. I hope you got value from this. If you got value, please share this with a friend. Leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't. It really means a lot. And if you are interested in working with me, I've got all my services down below. I offer a free 7-day trial with my services, which comes with a one-on-one call with me. You'll literally get a call with me for free, access to all my content for 7 days, absolutely free, no obligation. You can cancel within the 7 days. I have a book. It's on Amazon, Audible, down below. I have a podcast. Obviously, you're listening to that right now. All my details down below. Go check it out. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you on the next episode. See ya.